Just for those who do not know, my name is Brian Pritchett. I'm the assistant principal here, and this is my 25th year working in Mount Vernon. Born and raised in Mount Vernon. I went to Traphagen Elementary School, went to Davis Middle School before I turned to the STEAM Academy. Then I graduated from Mount Vernon High School. Living right now still in Mount Vernon, and it's an honor to be able to serve a community that I went to school, and now I work here. So my whole life has been Mount Vernon. I'm an assistant principal, I'm a coach, but most importantly, my best job is as a dad. And just seeing all the dads here today is beautiful. So just give yourself a round of applause for that. Just being a dad. I can tell you personally, for me being a dad, I've had my ups and downs as a dad. I've been in family court. I've had different dilemmas with my child, but at the end of the day, I always still push through for the benefit of my child. So when we have events like this, I try to be realistic and speak about my story. We have a great activity today that speaks about just fatherhood. And if you see right here on the video, we have President Obama, who speaks candidly about his experience as a father. I've done this before, and I've spoken about this numerous times, but it was interesting to me studying President Obama. He said he had more time as a dad being president of the United States. Doesn't kind of make sense, right? He said he had more time as a dad as president of the United States than he did as a senator. When we watch the video, we'll go into depth about what he talks about, but one of the things that he said was being a dad is not necessarily about what you do or what you buy, it's about being present. And if you look at your table, I put on your table a quote from President Obama about what he said about being present. So just take a minute with a partner next to you, because we're going to be in groups. Just take a minute to look at the quote, what he spoke about, and then we'll share out real quickly before we look at the video. Just take a minute to look at the quote. So real quick, can someone just share out with me the quote and maybe your interpretation of that? The quote by President Obama. Anybody? Anyone? Got shy dads here. Anyone? Just about his quote about being present. Anyone can interpret that into their own words? Okay, well, let me help everyone. So, Obama, this is from his memoir of A Promised Land. Now, I've read this book a few times. It speaks candidly not just about him as a president of the United States, but just his trials and tribulations of being an African-American man, fatherhood, the job of being a president, but it also speaks about fatherhood. So he says, every parent savors moments, I suppose, when the world slows down. Your strivings get pushed to the back of your mind, and all that matters is that you are present. There it goes again. You are present fully to witness the miracle of your child growing up. What do you think he means by that, being present? Being here today, good. Now let's say you're a dad like myself. I'm in the school probably 10 hours a day. I'm in a co-parenting situation. What are ways that you can be present like that? Activities. I'm sorry, say it again.
Having memories with them, or special moments with them that they go on in their life.
Exactly, very good. I can give you an example for myself. Like I said, I'm going to speak candidly. In a co-parenting situation, I see my son at least 4 times a week, but sometimes we don't have that whole sleepover, whole long extended period of time. An activity that I always do with my child is I always take him to the grocery store. That's been our activity since he was a little baby. And he loves going to Stu Leonard's, and we go there, and it's an experience. And that's something that he can speak to right now. He's almost 10 years old. We've been doing that since he's been a toddler. So that's one way that I said to myself, I'll always be present no matter what the activity is. Another example, being present. Anyone? Yes, sir. Yeah, sure. Can you stand up for us?
It's one thing to be present physically, but to be present mentally, as well as it shines like mentally, because sometimes, like you said, we can get pushed with, things get rough. So sometimes, during the pandemic, a lot of things going on, we tend to, stop urging like we should, and say. And sometimes you just got to be there mentally as well as physically. That's how I look at this quote.
Very good.
Being a moment to be present physically as well as physically.
You spoke about that, and I didn't have that on my notes, but during the pandemic, I don't know who's in a situation like myself, but Zoom saved my relationship with my son. Zoom. Wasn't able to see him often. But I was able to build a foundation prior to the pandemic where I was present, even though it was on Zoom. And the pandemic, it strengthened our relationship in some ways. Because now, when I was able to interact personally, it made the bond that much greater. So being present, very little things that you can do. The littlest thing, putting away your phone. I know when I'm with my son, I try to put my phone away. I know when I'm with my son, he may want to watch Linky Box or YouTube. I'm engaged. I'm watching it. I'm giving him dialogue because at the end of the day, I'm his best friend. And I always want to create that moment. One more comment from a dad, and then we'll look at the video. Anyone? Being present.
Communication.
Communication. What's an example?
For instance, like talk to your kids. Just ask them, what's going on, how you feeling, what do you want to be when you grow up. Just communicating with them. Because sometimes as parents, we could be dismissive of their feelings.
Right.
Really think they feel, or they have ideas, or they understand. Because we're too busy wrapped up in doing parent things. So it's good to keep that communication with your kids.
So Dad just spoke about communication, okay? Giving your child a voice. That old way of parenting, I know when I was younger, my mom said, it's my way or no way. I don't really parent that way. I don't. At the end of the day, we have the final say-so, right, as parents and dads. But it's always good to hear that voice because, let's face it, our kids are smart, right? They have a voice, they have experiences, and they want to be heard. So shutting a child down is not always the best answer. Communication is so key in all parenting relationships. So let's just take a minute real quick to look at this video. But before I show that, I want to introduce our wonderful principal. He's in the back. Childhood friend of mine, also from Mount Vernon. Let's give a nice round of applause for Mr. Molina.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Pritchett. First of all, welcome. This is a pleasant surprise, this big turnout that this cafeteria is so full. It says a lot. So I'm just going to speak to you as I'm a father myself, and as someone who just rushed dropping off my 4-year-old and 1-year-old. I know all the pressures we are under. And as a dad, no matter what we're going through, whether we're tired, whether we don't feel well, right? Whether we're down and out, what do we always say? I'm all right, right? I'm all right. I'm all right. Because regardless, we've got to make it happen. We've got to figure out how to pay for the next thing, right? How to get people where they need to be. You want to sleep in on that Saturday, but somebody's got soccer, somebody's got basketball, someone has to be driven somewhere. All the things we do that, although we don't do it for acknowledgement, because we were raised to say, hey, that's our job. We're supposed to provide, we're supposed to be there for our children. But what I want everyone in this group to know is that the work you do is so much appreciated, and it's so important, because what we leave our children with are memories. I still remember things from elementary school that my parents came to, certain activities that they came to. And although we're their first example. And there are some ways that, like Mr. Pritchett said, I don't always agree with my mother's style of parenting, because anyone who has a mother or father, they always got an opinion on how you raise your kids. The other day she told me I give my daughter too many choices. You know, well, like Pritchett said, I'm not so quick to shut her down. You know, I want her to have a voice, and it's that balance. And I believe that's what we're all doing, and it truly does take a whole community. So I want to welcome you, and I want to thank you. If you can give yourselves a round of applause for being here. On an easier note, we are setting up donuts and water. It's on the way. So I want to thank our PTA, our parent liaison. Join the PTA. Join the PTA. We have forms here. We need everyone's voice. That's the only way that we're going to make things happen for our children in the school community. We need parents to advocate. For example, you see those fences being built out there. That playground's a disgrace. But it took parents, Mr. Vassar, Ms. Gutierrez, getting together with PTA, actually going to Kent Silver, going to the superintendent to say our children deserve better. When we do that, we get the results they deserve. So I want to encourage you to join PTA. I want to thank you, and I see some moms here too. Thank you for all you do. Enjoy the rest of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Molina. So we have a quick video, about 3 minutes. We'll look at it. We'll talk amongst ourselves, and we're going to be in groups. So this is going to be group 1, right? This is group 2. This is group 3. You have in front of you chart paper. You have pencils, colored pencils. Pens, colored pencils, and you have sticky pads. We'll look at the video first, and then I'll talk about the quick activity that we'll do.
And Carlos Mejia, whose girls 3 and 6, he promises, Mr. President, he promises they're playing quietly in another room right now. Thank you to all the dads for being here. Say hello to the president.
Hello, Mr. President.
Hello, Mr. President.
Well, it's good to see all of you. Although I have to say I am exhausted just hearing your biographies. It's bringing back flashbacks of sleepless nights and stepping on toys.
Well, that's why we have you here, to get ourselves a little bit of advice from one of the most prominent dads in the history of the country. Mr. President, first thing I'd like to do, though, is begin with a quote from your book, In a Promised Land. You said, quote, "Every parent savors such moments when the world slows down, and all that matters is that you are present fully to witness the miracle of your child growing up." Could you expand on that just a little?
You know, I was describing what it was like just coaching Sasha's rec league basketball team when she was 7 or 8, even in the midst of the presidency, and you know, just the sheer joy that would bring, and wishing that I maybe planned so that I had more of that and maybe a little less of meetings in the Situation Room. Although it's an extreme example, I think all of us, as parents and as fathers, are struggling with and trying to figure out the fact that the single most important thing in our lives are these little people who are dependent on us, and we're teaching, and they're bringing us joy, and they're teaching us about ourselves. But we also gotta work, gotta make a living, gotta hit deadlines. Sometimes I have to travel, and so often, you know, the way we organize and schedule our lives prevents us from being there as much as we'd like.
The way you're able to multitask during that 8 years, you know, you're the president, you have to be a husband, you have to work on your jump shot, you have to still somehow find time for your kids as well. Like, when you're juggling so many things, how are you always able to make sure that you were there and always fully present? Not just physically, but mentally.
When I was campaigning for the presidency, or when I was in the U.S. Senate and I had to commute back and forth between Washington and Chicago, the issue for me was just being physically present. How did I manage it? I managed it because I had this extraordinary partner who was just a great mom and was carrying the burden, the lion's share of the day-to-day, making sure that they, you know, we're at the pediatrician's appointment and making sure that, you know, the ballet tights fit right for the dance recital and all that. And I'd show up at the dance recital, but I wasn't combing their hair. There was one time where I tried to comb Malia's hair when Michelle was away for a weekend, and it's, you know, she was 4 or 5 at the time. When we got to the dance studio, one of Michelle's friends, another parent, came up and whispered to Malia, "Do you want me to redo your hair?" And Malia, who had said it was fine, she's like, "Yes, please, this is a disaster." And I overheard her, and I realized, man, I'm not well equipped here. So, that once I was in the presidency, as I described, the great good fortune was suddenly everybody came to me. I had no commute. It was literally walking down the stairs and walking down the colonnade. And yeah, I didn't have to pick up my dry cleaning, right? You know, so suddenly, me being home for dinner every night at 6:30, even if I had to go back to the office afterwards. Those kinds of things made a huge difference. I was fortunate. The shifting of the perspective in terms of me being all in, that wasn't as hard, partly just because it was such an amazing break to not be thinking about, you know, terrorism or wildfire, and just sit there at the dinner table listening to Molina and Sasha talk about knucklehead boys and, you know, the teacher with the weird haircut. Yeah, it was like you know, just a vacation every time I spent time with them.
So real quick, speak candidly about being present, right? And one thing that I took from that, I've seen this video a lot of times, but every time I see it, I always take notes. He just spoke about multitasking as a dad and as a president, right? And he spoke about how his job as a dad got easier when he became president. Does anybody remember why he said his job as a dad got easier?
Everybody came to him to do something.
Right, everybody came to him. He talked about his commute being a lot easier, him just walking down the stairs, right? As a senator, he spoke about a dad having to travel from Chicago to DC. That interfered with his time being present. So just think about that for us as dads. Being creative, finding ways to be present, even though he spoke about that. Meeting deadlines, having to work, multitasking different jobs. It's a lot, but the simplest things we can do to be present, he spoke about it. Being president, being in the White House, having dinner at 6:30 with his children. Being present, a simple thing. So real quick, just take a look at the back of the quote. I would like you guys to all come into some type of group situation. So like I said, that's group 1. This is group 2. This is group 3, right? So group 1 is going to look at question number 1. If you look at the back of the sheet, group 1 is going to look at question number 1. Think about that, how that relates to your job as a dad, right? Group 2 is going to take a look at question number 2. You can sit with a partner. You can come together as groups. Think about that. Think about how that relates to you as a dad. Group 3, which is here. Question number 3. Take a look at that. How does that relate to you as a dad? We'll share out in about 2 minutes. Once again, with your elbow partner, right next to you, take a look at question 1. Take a look at question number 1. Group 2 right here. Take a look at question number 2. How does that relate to you as a dad? Group 3 over here.
That's important as well, so I appreciate that answer. And all the answers that they gave us. So that's question number 1.
That's great. Go back to that other response. You said the dad who's not here.
The dad who's not here.
Right. Just expand on that one more time. I didn't hear it.
For the dad who's not here, so whatever circumstance, whether they're working or some other commitment that they had where they can't be here, but they're not here because they're helping or serving their families, serving their children. That's an activity. Now you're like, okay, well, you're not here, but they're not here because they're sacrificing. All right, that's a big answer. These brothers will get that, so that's a great answer. Thank you.
Let's give a round of applause to Group 1. Great job. Thank you, Coach. Group 2 right here, question number 2. Group 2, anyone? Like to read and share out? How you doing?
All right,
Can you read the question and then share out your response?
Describe some challenges that you face as a father to be present and actively engaged.
Okay, here's the question. Describe some challenges that you face as a dad to be present. I spoke about some of my challenges, right? We all have those challenges, whether it's time, multitasking, co-parenting situation, whatever it is. But you still got to find a way to be present. So, Dad, what's the response?
Yeah, so for me, I mean, I've been blessed. I've been serving the Marine Corps for years, but at the same time, my kids they always known I was there. They always did activities, into sports. But my biggest thing right now is, as a grandpa, I have 8 grandkids, and what's happening is that the challenges my kids are going through, because recently there's been divorces, the way the environment is and stuff like that, so I need to be there for my grandchildren. It's the same thing that they could see, like, while I'm there, I'm gonna make the activities. It hasn't been easy for them because they also go through certain turmoils. Wow, why is Daddy not calling me here or this? So what I do, I speak to my daughters every other day. We get together, we talk about it. Boom, hey, what's happening? I mean, I'm going through something now with one of my youngest grandkids, and it's not easy because you have to be there. Whatever dispositions they have between a mother and a father that they're going through, I need to just step in and at least be part of their lives so they don't go and just fade away from the family, always disrupting themselves or maybe getting into some medication for the kids, but it's not really that. It's trying to be a parent besides a mother or a father, but me as a dad and a grandpa, I need to make sure that I'm always there for them because it's not easy. And I've been blessed that with all my kids that I've always been there and we've always been together, even though I served in the Marines. But that's the way I see it.
Right.
You know, it's me taking part now. I never had experience what I'm experiencing now with my grandkids and my older kids because of the way situations are. But I still need to be their dad and also be their grandpa there to at least make sure they know that somebody's there.
Excellent response. Give them a round of applause. And it does take a village to raise our children, right? It's not just one person. It's not just dad. Sometimes it's papa, it's grandma, it's auntie, it's Uncle Brian, you know, it's the teacher. I'm a coach. I've raised a lot of kids in Mount Vernon. I'm a coach, right? A lot of players that I've had don't have dads, right? I've filled in that role as a father figure, so very important. And something else he spoke about, being able to function as a dad in chaos, right? Whatever the beef is between you and the mom, and I'm just being real, whatever the beef is, you still have to be able to function in chaos as a dad. So that means going to your court appointment. Question number 3. Got my dads. Anyone? Question number 3. Sure, here we go.
Identify a role that you have learned from your father that you have used to your parenting skills. I would want to say.
Please repeat the question real quick. You said, question number 3 says, identify a role that you've learned from your dad and or someone who helped you as a father. Identify a role. What did you learn from a mentor, dad, father, uncle, cousin, whoever?
I would say the main thing is just being an example. I think as fathers, we like to, tell our kids the do's and don'ts, the lessons and what not to fall into. But a lot of what I've learned from my dad is what I've seen him do. Situations I've known he's been in that I've known he's had to handle as a man. It's shown me how to interact with my kids in certain situations come up. I relate to things that he's related with me. And so I find myself being in his shoes. Just him being active with me has me, no doubt, there's no way I cannot be active. So I just think as fathers, we have to be that example. A lot of times, it's not what we say. These kids are watching what we do and how we move and our mannerisms. So that's important.
Very good. Let's go. Round of applause for the response. He says it's not what you say, it's what you do, right? That's what kids see. You can say whatever to a child. 9 times out of 10 is about what you do. Great response. I know for me, as a young person growing up, My dad, all I saw him do, honestly, was work. My dad would leave the house at 6 a.m., 5:30. He would come back at 11 o'clock at night. My mom held everything down, to be honest. My mom held it down. But my dad was working, paying bills, right? So being able to sign up for the team, being able to do karate, being able to go swim lessons, going on field trips, playing basketball. I played basketball in Mount Vernon. All of that stuff got taken care of. My dad wasn't at a lot of games, to be honest, but them bills was paid, right? So, you know, a lot of times what we do is in the backdrop, right? You don't see it, but.
You know, to piggyback on that.
Sure.
I guess the opposite of that would be to, you know, the things that you felt like you didn't learn from your father, not being around, make sure you're there for your kids, you know, to be there for them. So it's two sides of it.
Right. That goes back to being able to function as a dad in chaos, right? It's not the built-in excuses. Oh, I got beef for her. I don't want to see my child's mom, whatever. That's the easy excuse. But the better answer is to handle your business. File the paperwork. Go to court. Get an attorney. Figure it out, because that excuse gets old when your child gets older. That excuse gets played out because now your child, son, daughter is asking questions. Asking questions. So are you going to be honest? You're going to be real? Or are you going to make up a story and blame it on somebody? Being able to function in chaos as a dad. And that's a great segue to piggyback to our guest speaker. He's a great friend of mine, but he happens to be my attorney. And I'm constantly talking about co-parenting. It's happened for me to get better over the years, but quite honestly, in the beginning, I was ready to give up. I'm gonna be straight up honest. My son was born June 7th, 2013. I saw him for 2 weeks, and then I didn't see him again for 6 months. I had a lot of different thoughts. I was ready to just walk away. I'll figure it out down the line, but that didn't sit well with me, and I didn't grow up like that. So what was I gonna do? Get your money together, figure it out, get in that courtroom, and get your rights. And that's what I did. My attorney is here. I just would like for him to speak to you guys just about the idea of co-parenting, keeping it harmonious, and keeping the open lines of communication on both sides, because if you don't, it can end up very, very crazy. And that's the worst thing, to miss out on time with your son or daughter. There's no excuse for that. We all have rights. You all have a chance to be involved, and there's no excuse. So I have my attorney here, Mr. Rafael Munez. He's going to speak to you guys real quick. Let's give him a nice round of applause. Okay. You want Mike?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. I want to thank you guys all for coming out today. My name is Rafael Munez. I've been an attorney for 10 years. I've been a parent for 22 years, and I've been a grandparent for about a year and a month now. And what I can tell you about the family court system is that I try to encourage all of my clients, before going that route, to try to communicate with the other parent and try to settle the case. Because by the time you get to me, by the time we get to family court, a lot of times it's too late. And if anyone here has ever had experience with family court, you realize that going in, especially as a minority parent, or especially as a Black or Hispanic father, that you're going in at a disadvantage. Now, everyone will tell you that as soon as you enter the family court, that everything is fair, that a father has the same rights as a mother to the child. And even though they say that, subconsciously, I believe that there is a certain segment of the family court system that believe that somehow, as a minority parent, as a minority father, you have less rights to your child. So in terms of communication and co-parenting, I try to teach my clients to sit down with the other partner, the former partner, and work things outside of the court. Now, you can say that I'm a product of two parents, right? Two fathers. I had a biological father that I was born to, and I have a father that raised me. You know, I don't like to use the term stepfather because he was a father to me in every other sense of the word. He taught me about being present. He taught me about interacting, taking responsibility. He stepped up when my own biological father was nowhere to be found. A lot of what he taught me, I was able to kind of impart on my children. I have a 22-year-old right now. I have a 9-year-old and a 10-year-old. And I just recently got married in December. Now, when I got married, I thought that everything was going to change. I didn't even want to tell my ex-wife that, you know, I had this new relationship because I thought that that was going to be the kind of, the thing that was going to get us to kind of, you know, to have a conflict. My wife came to me and said to me, let me go and speak to her. My wife was able to go speak to my ex-wife. They went out and had dinner. I thought it was the strangest thing in the world. I said to myself, when my wife comes home, she's gonna leave me. She's gonna find something out and she's gonna end up leaving me. So I was afraid of that interaction, but it was the best thing that ever happened to me. This past Mother's Day, they were all at the house together. We had my ex-wife, we had my new wife, we had all of the children. And everyone was under one roof and everyone was communicating. And it was the happiest day of my life. And so, taking that experience, what I can impart with you is this. Communicate with your family. Be present for your kids. Be present for your relationships. I heard a brother over there say that more important than what you say is what you do. These children are watching everything that you do. So when you're outside saying that, you know, I'm a father, I'm going to go to work, I'm going to provide for my children, and that's my role, we understand that that's a part of your role. The other part of the role is being present in the home and sitting down with them every night, even when you come in and you're tired, and doing the 3 hours of homework. How many of you guys in here have done homework with the children? So you know that it's not 1 hour, it's not 2 hours, sometimes it's 3 hours. And you're sitting there going over material that you have to relearn by going on the computer and relearning. And as hard as it might be, those are the things that the kids are going to remember. They're going to remember every second that you spent with them. And that's going to impact them and stay with them as they go out into it. So again, yes, I am a son, but I'm talking to you today as a father and saying to you that it's more important that you communicate with each other. It's more important that you sit down with your children and you be present with them than to go to court. Now, if you need to go to court, that's where I come in. But I would hope that you guys would take the first or second option first in terms of communicating with the other party before you need it. I just want to thank you for your time today.
Quick, I can open it up for about 2 minutes. Any questions? Family court, dad situations, visitation, anything? This is free knowledge. No retainer fee right now.
It's hard.
Okay, here we go. This is free.
I had a situation with my first 3 kids' mother, and they were 69 years. Once we separated, I had my father doing wrong and like that. She went to child support court. The judge herself said, why now? She went ranting on with personal stuff in my life. That's not it. So I said to this, she's a strong woman, but she didn't know that I'm here to try to be a father still, no matter what. You decide to do with me, ask for incarceration. Well, I want to before we don't get after child support plus. The judge goes, no, he's here to modify the payment for his child. He's president. Forgiveness wasn't credit for that. Oh, I don't care. He's involved. He doesn't. Downward modification. Right. Yeah. Right. So I mean, like, I'm still trying to do that, but she's always trying to cost me. Take my boyfriend. But it's hard. What I'm saying, it's hard to do the option of communicating with them because they're strong and they don't see that you're really trying to. Some dads are really trying to make you right, even though they separate from their mother. And I'm not the only one. I know that.
I'll let the attorney speak on it real quick, but me as a professional, educated, 25 years, went through it. Went through that whole situation.
Yeah.
Went through it, right? That's where you come to. But, you know,
Sometimes you do have to go to court. Sometimes you have to let the attorneys and the judge handle the situation, because if you don't, you'll end up letting the emotion take over the situation and you'll make a mistake. You can't afford that. Let me answer the question. Here's the response. What would you rather do? Would you rather pay me $2,500 retainer to go to court, right? Or would you rather change your terminology, not use the word scorn, and maybe just listen to them? Because a lot of times, even though you're in family court, the problem started way before. And a lot of times, even though you're not with the woman anymore, as a woman, she wants you to just listen. And as men, we say, well, that was the past, that was the past, that was 5 years ago. Why are you still talking about it? But for her, she hasn't unresolved issues. So instead of using the word scorn, don't ever use that word again, especially not in front of women. Listen to her. What she has to say. A lot of times that'll go all the way.
Thank you for that. One more question or response for our attorney, guest speaker, anybody? Okay, let's just give him another nice round of applause. Thank you for all that. And I would like to say thank you to all you dads for coming in today. We do apologize for the late start. We were waiting on our refreshments. I hope you got something out of this. Just the idea of being present, just the idea of fatherhood, ways that we can push the envelope to do more. I hope you took something away from this. Please feel free to hang out. We have refreshments here. If you're waiting to take a picture with your child, hang out here. We can have your child come down to the cafeteria. We'll have them come down. So feel free. Refreshments are in the back. I want to thank all of our parents and dads for coming once again. Give yourselves a nice round of applause for taking the time out. We don't always get the credit that we deserve. We know that. We know that. We're men. We have to push forward, but most importantly, be present.
We see that when Father's Day come around.
Father's Day? Yeah. You know, honestly, I really don't care about Father's Day because to me, I'm a father every day. So if you have to highlight it on one day, that's a mistake, right? It's every day. So once again, thank you all for coming. Enjoy the refreshments. We'll have your child come down if you want to. Thank you.